Donald Trump loves to talk about how charitable he is. Unfortunately, it looks like his charitable giving is as exaggerated as most of the things he talks about. He says that he's given more than $102 million to charity in just the past 5 years, which would be amazing if it was true. It would actually be a small percentage of his supposed income, but that's what he says. To back up that claim, his campaign compiled a list of his contributions, almost 5,000 of them, filling 93 pages, which sounds great until you look at those and find out that many of the people receiving those contributions are not charities. They're business partners, individuals. Most of the things being given are not contributions in any way, and almost none of it involves his actual money, which is what I think of when I think about giving to charity. Now, if we could bring up this chart, you're going to see a breakdown of donations to the Donald J. Trump Foundation. So he uses this to then send out gifts and charity and all of that. You see, early on, he had put in a little bit of money, totaling about $2 million or so. But the vast majority of the money, especially in the past 5 years, which is the period he was talking about, he has not given any money to the foundation to then be given to charity. Jeez. And it turns out, we're going to break this down in a couple of different ways, but this is the most important point. The largest items on the list were not cash gifts, but land conservation agreements to forgo development rights on property Trump owns. Trump's campaign also counted a parcel of land that he'd given to New York State, although that was in 2006, not within the past 5 years. They still threw it in the past 5 years thing.
So, hold on. So, his version of charity is, I've got this land to develop, and I'm going to keep it as what?
Just not developed. So theoretically, if maybe, like, I guess the people living in the area didn't want it developed, he doesn't develop it. And then he says, however much I could have made on that land, I didn't make, so that's a gift to charity.
That's insane. By the way,
he's a crazy person.
Is that something that he deducts in his taxes?
I don't know, because he doesn't reveal his taxes.
True. Okay. So his idea of charitable giving is hilarious. You know, all of my rich neighbors, they don't want this place to be overdeveloped, so I will buy the land and I won't develop on it. Yeah. Am I not merciful? Like, he's just so full of shit. And I know you're going to get to it in a second,
That's
but
amazing.
The part of this story that speaks volumes to me is the fact that he thinks it's charitable giving when he allows people to use his golf course for charitable events, right? Yeah. Some people might say, oh, well, you're allowing people to use your property, like there's some value in that, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not the equivalent of giving people millions of dollars. He claimed he gave $100 million in charity over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's when, if a real charity might have an auction, and one of the things is you get to play at Donald Trump's dumb golf course, right? And somebody bids $10,000 to have a foursome, and then that money goes to the charity. Donald Trump thinks he's given $10,000 to the charity.
Yes, that could be some portion of it, but the vast majority of the cases in which he gave out these free golf course rounds were not even, your guys are being too charitable in this case, and I'll explain. So, first of all, many of the gifts on the list came from the charity that bears his name, the Donald J. Trump Foundation, which didn't receive, as we said, didn't receive a personal check from Trump from 2009 through 2014. Its work is largely funded by others, although Trump decides where the gifts go. Some beneficiaries on the list are not charities at all. They included clients, other businesses, and tennis superstar Serena Williams. So when he gives a free flight to Serena Williams, when he gives a free round of golf to Serena Williams, he counts that as a donation to charity. He wanted to hang out with Serena Williams, so he gives her stuff, and that's charity.
That's incredible.
It's amazing.
Is she on her way to host some charity event, and he's giving
I've seen
the
no
flight
evidence
away?
of that. Now, Trump claimed credit for at least...
I have a tough time believing this can be as bad as we're making it seem.
Well, you can break down the list. You can look at all of these different donations. He claimed credit for at least 2,900 free rounds of golf, 175 free hotel stays, 165 free meals, and 11 gift certificates to spas. Most of this stuff obviously involving people then going to one of his places, where theoretically he would make money off of them in other ways. Which is an interesting tie to this campaign.
Are these like homeless kids who get to go to a Trump spa?
So far as I know, they're not. A lot of them are business clients or partners of his. He gives them the ability to go to his place and then calls it charity.
Hungry kids, they like esteem.
They like esteem, yes, a mud bath. Yeah. Also, this is a little side note, but people have been doing some digging into his campaign spending. His campaign for president spends tons of money at Trump businesses. They go through all of his different businesses, funneling millions of dollars into his businesses. This campaign might just be a business tactic of his, it turns out. But anyway, let's bring up this. You're going to see the estimates of the various different types of gifts. Those conservation easements are 64% of that $100 million he says he donated.
Conservation easements, that's just, again, that doesn't mean he didn't like buy a piece of property and then turn it into a park.
Or like a place that seals mate in. No, he just didn't develop those places. And they found out in some of the...
interesting choice you went with.
I know. I don't know what I'm talking about conservation. In some of the cases, by the way, he did go on to develop on those lands, but still included it there. If you could bring that back up. So that's 64% of all of his charity is just not developed. 64 million. Well, he said he gave 102 million,
I got
so
you.
close.
Okay, all right, I got you.
The land donated to New York State, that's true. He did do that one. That's 26 million by his estimate. That was not within the past 5 years, by the way. That was back in 2006. The gifts from the Donald J. Trump Foundation, $7 million, of which about $2 million is his, and then gifts made by Trump's golf courses. Theoretically, some of those people might have gone to those anyway and spent money. In this case, they're not. So theoretically, he forewent getting some of that money.
Remember?
But in all, he gave about 2% of what he said he actually gave.
Look, this doesn't surprise me at all, especially when you consider, the animosity that Trump seems to have for poor people. And look, this story reminded me of a story that John and I did together months ago about how Trump very explicitly stated that he does not believe the game of golf is for, quote, poor people. Right?
Not even the poor kids.
Right. So, I mean, the way that he speaks about the poor, and the part of it that frustrates me the most is you look at his voter base and you look at the number of middle class and working class Americans who have been fooled by his bullshit. And they're voting for a candidate who has been very, very open about how much he doesn't like them.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's amazing.
You don't ever brag that you've given away free golf courses and free visits to you. Like, you can do it, and it's admirable, and it might come up in a conversation. I mean, he could say in this, well, I give away a lot of golf to charities and stuff like that. That's it. That's all you can do. You can't make a fuss over it. It's just, I mean, he is so out of touch, so clueless, and to Anna's point that he is this out of touch, this completely detached from how any real person lives, that he is still suckered all of these real people. And I keep reading the story. LA Times had a really good story on a Trump voter just outside of Vegas, where one county in Vegas, around Vegas, I think in the city, one precinct anyway, that Trump was winning 63% there. And it's mostly working class. And it starts with this guy walking through town, walking through the street, and he's like, oh, there's some Arabs who live there, and they make too much noise, and they pray too. No. And then he's like, some blacks rented that house, and they ran it all down. Except it turns out the guy voted for Obama twice. He's Latin, and when he says he has black and Arab friends, he wasn't kidding. Like, they built it up that way. He was, so, like, he is the guy, at the end of it, you're like, oh, I think he isn't racist. He was actually just saying, that house got run down by some Arabs, some blacks there. Those are great people. They haven't, and so, but it was, you're just, and you see a guy who voted for Obama twice, and you're like, how did this guy, this Latino, get totally co-opted? He's retired and he's struggling. He's working class, and he feels like, to our point and what we were saying earlier, the system is totally rigged. This black woman comes over at the end of his neighbor, his friend, and they goof around a lot. They're both retired. She's voting for Sanders, and she was trying to convince him to come over to Sanders, and he was trying to convince her to come over to. No, it's just the piece ended. But anyway, it just, they're not all. There are a lot of racists at Trump rallies, and he breeds it and he instigates it, and I don't even know whether he knows. He may be clueless, but it's that we shouldn't pigeonhole Trump supporters all that way at all. No, I know you weren't. You weren't.
I mean, a lot of them are idiots. I'm not gonna hide about the fact that I think that they are, and they're idiots because they see someone who speaks openly about his disdain for certain groups of people, and they feel empowered by that. Right? They like it. Oh, he tells it how it is. So you're just going to vote for a moron because he tells it how it is, and he makes you feel good about your own weird, issues and
so
prejudices?
The people who tell it how it is never are people who claim to tell it how it is, because how it is complicated and long and frequently boring. Rush Limbaugh thinks he tells it like it is. Rush Limbaugh says that people want Donovan McNabb to win the Super Bowl because they want a black quarterback to win. It'll make him feel better. And you're like, what are you talking about, right? And he goes, oh, I made everyone mad because I just told it like it was.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, you made people mad because you said an idiotic thing. Because
By the way,
you're a fool.
He has a 3-hour-a-day show. He has the time to actually tell it like it is in all the detail it requires. He just chooses not to.
He chooses not to.
And he's
Yeah.
probably too stupid.